Among the many devotional practices of the Catholic Church, few are as simple and at the same time as effective as praying the 3 Hail Marys before bed. This devotion, so simple in its words, is full of meaning and spiritual promises, proving to be a powerful shield against the dangers of the soul and body. With origins deeply linked to the Marian tradition, the practice of praying 3 Hail Marys before bed has a rich and significant history that spans centuries. This devotional practice, although apparently simple, was encouraged by saints and promoted by numerous popes throughout the ages. Its origin dates back to past centuries, when mystical revelations and apparitions of Our Lady began to reinforce the importance of devotion to the Virgin Mary as a means of protection, purity, and sanctification. Many Christians have found in her a concrete way of expressing their love for the Mother of God and of entrusting themselves completely to her help. Praying 3 Hail Marys every night before going to sleep is, above all, an act of surrender and trust in the hands of the Blessed Virgin. This small gesture, although brief, carries with it the depth of someone who recognizes human fragility and seeks refuge in the intercession of Our Lady. Each Hail Mary has a special meaning, directly related to the Marian virtues and gifts, mainly to her purity, her intercession, and her perfect obedience to God's will. The history of devotion dates back to some Marian apparitions, in which the Virgin Mary herself instructed the faithful about the importance of this prayer. On several occasions, mystics and saints received revelations about the benefits of the 3 Hail Marys, which came to be seen not only as a prayer of praise, but also as a form of personal consecration to the protection and care of the Most Holy Mary. According to tradition, one of the main promises linked to the devotion of the 3 Hail Marys is special protection against sin and purity of the soul. Our Lady would have promised that those who were faithful to this practice would be preserved from the most serious temptations, especially in moments of greatest spiritual fragility. This makes this prayer a powerful spiritual combat tool, promoting purity and divine grace in the lives of devotees. The devotion began to become popular in the Middle Ages, a period in which the cult of Mary gained great prominence and the doctrine about her Immaculate Conception was increasingly widespread. Many theologians, saints, and religious began to propagate this practice, seeing it as an effective way of keeping alive the memory of Mary's purity and seeking to imitate her in the midst of everyday difficulties. This practice quickly found its way into popular piety. Among the promoters of this devotion is Saint Anthony of Lisbon, known for his deep love for the Blessed Virgin and his trust in her support. Saint Anthony encouraged the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys as a way of preserving purity, especially among young people, reminding them of the importance of maintaining a chaste heart and faithful to God. According to reports, he himself dedicated himself faithfully to this prayer, reaping many spiritual fruits from this practice. Another saint who played a great role in the dissemination of this devotion was Saint Leonardo de Porto Mauricio, a fervent Franciscan friar who propagated the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys in his preaching. He believed that this practice could convert souls and strengthen the faithful in the fight against sin, in addition to bringing peace and tranquility before rest. His enthusiasm infected the crowds, and many believers began to adopt devotion in their lives. Saint Leonard saw this prayer as a concrete gesture of humility, because when praying each Hail Mary, the faithful recognized their dependence on Mary and placed themselves under her protection. He encouraged people to pray with confidence and fervor, highlighting that, at the end of each day, surrender to Mary would renew the soul, giving it peace and strength to face the challenges of Christian life. For him, it was an essential preparation for rest, surrendering himself to Our Lady with confidence. In addition to the saints, many popes also encouraged this devotion. In particular, Pope Pius X, known for his zeal in promoting the prayer life of the faithful, granted indulgences to those who prayed the 3 Hail Marys. He saw this practice as a simple and accessible means of achieving abundant graces, both for earthly life and eternal life. With this, the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys spread even further, gaining the support and official blessing of the Church. One of the most beautiful aspects of this devotion is its purpose of honoring the 3 people of the Holy Trinity, who granted Mary the gifts of wisdom, purity, and intercessory power. Each Hail Mary represents a thank you and an honor to one of the divine persons for the greatness of the privileges granted to the Mother of God. This symbolism reinforces the Trinitarian dimension of devotion, showing that, by honoring Mary, we are also worshiping God. For many Christians, this prayer represents a moment of reflection and reconciliation with God. At the end of the day, with the prayer of the three Hail Marys, the faithful review their attitudes, seek forgiveness for their failures, and ask for the intercession of the Blessed Mother to follow the path of virtue. This daily examination transforms the heart and leads the devotee to a life closer to God, cultivating an intimate relationship with the Mother of Jesus and a constant search for holiness. The prayer of the three Hail Marys is also a reminder of Mary's maternal presence at each Christian's side. Just as a mother takes care of her children, the Virgin Mary watches over her devotees, protecting them and interceding for their needs. Praying before going to sleep is a way of entrusting her with all our fears, difficulties, and joys, knowing that at dawn we will be renewed by her maternal care and intercession. At the heart of devotion is the desire for purification. Each Hail Mary is an opportunity to ask God, through Mary's intercession, for the grace of a pure and upright life. This constant practice helps strengthen the virtues of chastity and self-control, especially in a world full of temptations. Prayer acts as a daily reminder of the call to holiness and the beauty of a life lived in God's grace. The devotion of the three Hail Marys, therefore, has a profoundly formative character, shaping the character of the faithful and promoting a life of virtue and humility. By making this prayer a habit, Christians are led to reflect on Mary's virtues and seek to imitate her in their actions, words, and thoughts. This devotional practice transforms spiritual life, making it more solid and rooted in Mary's example. Many reports over the centuries confirm the power of this devotion to protect the faithful in times of difficulty. There are testimonies of people who were saved from imminent dangers or severe temptations after praying the three Hail Marys with faith. These accounts are signs of Our Lady's special protection and her desire to be close to her children, especially in times of trial and suffering. Tradition teaches that, when reciting the three Hail Marys, the faithful remember and honor the immaculate purity of Mary. Devotion to the purity of the Mother of God is a way of keeping the mind and heart clean, guarding against the sins that separate man from God. By asking for Mary's protection to live in purity, the devotee recognizes his dependence on grace and opens himself up to being strengthened against temptations. One of the promises linked to this devotion is the grace of a peaceful and holy death. Many saints and theologians have stated that those who remain faithful to this practice are guaranteed the presence of Our Lady in the final moments of their lives. This is an immense consolation for the faithful who, by praying the three Hail Marys daily, live with the hope of being welcomed by the Mother of God at the time of their passage into eternity. This trust in Mary's presence in the final moments is deeply rooted in Catholic doctrine on the intercession of saints. Just as we believe that Mary intercedes for us in our daily needs, we also trust that she will be present in our last moment when we need her help most. The prayer of the three Hail Marys, therefore, is a preparation for eternity, a way of ensuring oneself under the mantle of the Mother of God. The simplicity of this prayer is another aspect that contributes to its popularity. Even children can easily learn to pray the three Hail Marys and, from an early age, grow up with this practice in their hearts. It is accessible to everyone, regardless of their level of education or social status. In this way, devotion becomes a link of union between all Christians, bringing them closer to the Virgin Mary and, through her, to Christ. Over the centuries, devotion to the three Hail Marys has been a bridge between the faith of generations. Grandparents and parents teach their children to pray them, creating a spiritual chain that connects the family under the protective mantle of the Virgin Mary. This family transmission of prayer has the power to shape a solid foundation of faith for new generations, educating them to trust in Our Lady from an early age. The fruits of this practice begin to become evident in the life of the believer. When prayer becomes a habit, it has the power to shape thoughts and attitudes, promoting a life guided by peace, trust, and serenity. Each night, those who pray the three Hail Marys can rest in the certainty that Our Lady is at their side, taking care of their needs, both spiritual and material. Many believers report that practicing devotion before bed helps to alleviate anxieties and worries, facilitating a peaceful and restful sleep. This gesture of entrusting the day into Mary's hands allows devotees to end the day with gratitude and peace, knowing that their struggles and challenges are safe with the Mother of God. She, who tirelessly intercedes, brings comfort and relief to each one's heart. In the 19th century, Blessed Pope Pius IX also contributed to the spread of devotion. He granted indulgences to those who prayed the 3 Hail Marys with faith, encouraging the faithful to trust in Mary and keep this practice alive in their lives. Pius IX was a fervent defender of Mary's purity and saw in this prayer a way for Christians to draw closer to divine grace and mercy. In more recent times, Pope Leo III, known as the Pope of the Rosary, also encouraged the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys. He believed that this practice helped to strengthen the bonds of love between Mary and her spiritual children. Leo III had a special devotion to the Mother of God and encouraged the Church to take refuge under her protection in all difficulties, making this prayer an essential tool for the Christian life. The symbolism of the 3 Hail Marys reflects a recognition of God's greatness in Mary and the gifts with which she was blessed. Each Hail Mary refers to a unique aspect of Mary's relationship with the Holy Trinity, and by praying them, the faithful are not only venerating Mary, but also praising the divine action in her life. This understanding makes prayer even deeper, rooted in Christian theology and spirituality. For St. John Eudes, this devotion was a means of glorifying the Holy Trinity through Mary. He saw in the 3 Hail Marys a way of exalting the privileges granted to the Mother of God: purity, the power of intercession, and deep communion with God. St. John Eudes encouraged the faithful to pray fervently, seeing this as an act of love and trust in Mary and in the grace that God pours out on his children. Across Europe, the devotion spread quickly, being adopted by religious communities and Christian homes. In monasteries, this practice was integrated into night prayers as a last act of entrustment of the day into the hands of the Mother of God. In homes, it became a family ritual in which parents and children prayed together before going to sleep, asking for the Virgin's protection and uniting in prayer. For Catholic spirituality, the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys is not just a personal devotion, but an expression of trust in the Church as the body of Christ. When praying with other Christians, the believer participates in a larger community, united by faith in Mary and her power of intercession. This practice thus becomes a bond of unity and charity that strengthens the Church in its mission of evangelization. Many saints throughout history have narrated graces and miracles received through this prayer. The Blessed Virgin is known for intervening directly in the lives of those who invoke her with humility and faith, granting material and spiritual graces. Reports of healings, conversions, and resolutions of material problems attest to the power of this simple and sincere practice, which touches the heart of the Mother of God. Saint Maximilian Kolbe himself, who had a deep devotion to the Immaculate Conception, saw the 3 Hail Marys as a powerful weapon against sin. For him, every Hail Mary said was an arrow against the temptations and dangers of life. He encouraged his followers to practice this devotion and to entrust themselves completely to Mary's protection, especially in times of tribulation. Saint Maximilian also taught that the 3 Hail Marys had the power to ward off the evil one, being true spiritual armor for the Christian. He remembered that just as Mary crushed the serpent's head, she also protects each of her children from the power of the enemy. With this devotion, the Christian is better prepared for the spiritual struggles he faces daily. In the Fatima apparitions, the Virgin Mary also emphasized the importance of prayer and the Rosary, but many scholars believe that the appeal to Mary's Immaculate Heart reinforces the meaning of the 3 Hail Marys. The practice thus becomes an echo of the messages of Fatima, where Mary calls her children to a life of prayer, penance, and trust in her maternal support. The prayer of the 3 Hail Marys is also a response to the call for conversion. By praying it sincerely, the believer commits to living a life closer to God, avoiding sin and seeking holiness. This devotion leads to a change in life, as it constantly reminds the Christian of the call to purity and love for God above all things. In addition to the spiritual aspects, practicing the 3 Hail Marys creates a healthy prayer routine. Many saints teach that constancy is fundamental for spiritual growth, and by praying every night, the faithful strengthen their discipline in faith. This repetition is not empty, but it enriches the soul and prepares the heart to welcome divine grace. In times of difficulty, this devotion is a safe shelter for the soul. Many people resort to praying the 3 Hail Marys in times of anguish and uncertainty, finding comfort and strength to face challenges. She is a constant source of hope, reminding us that Mary is always at our side, ready to intercede for us. For those who struggle with addictions or weaknesses, the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys is a powerful ally. By asking the Virgin's intercession for purity of heart, the faithful find strength to resist temptations and persevere in the search for holiness. Many testify how much this prayer helped them overcome inner battles and find peace. In the context of families, this practice is a way to unite spiritual ties. When parents and children pray together, especially at night, they grow stronger as a family, building a solid foundation of faith and love. Mary, as mother of all Christians, is present in every home that invokes her, bringing peace and harmony to coexistence. There is also the testimony of many priests who encourage their parishioners to pray the 3 Hail Marys. They recognize the spiritual fruits of this devotion in their communities, seeing how it inspires the faithful to a life closer to God. Many testify to how much this prayer has helped them face their own spiritual battles and persevere in ministry. Each Hail Mary is therefore an act of love and trust in Mary. This devotion teaches us that, although we are weak and limited, we count on the infallible help of the Mother of God, who never abandons us. She is our safe refuge, and the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys constantly reminds us of this, strengthening our faith and our hope. When reflecting on the history of the devotion of the 3 Hail Marys, we realize that it is more than a simple practice. It is a commitment to a life in God, guided and protected by Mary. In a world so full of distractions and challenges, this prayer is an anchor that keeps Christians firm in their faith, always seeking help from the Virgin. And at the end of each day, when worries and difficulties seem to weigh heavily, praying the 3 Hail Marys is a gesture of total surrender. With it, the believer places his life in the hands of the Mother of God, trusting that she will intercede for his needs and protect him. This devotion, therefore, is a constant reminder that Mary is our mother, and that with her, we are never alone. The prayer of the 3 Hail Marys, then, can be seen as a true practice of daily spiritual strengthening. By incorporating this devotion, Christians find a constant way to remember and renew the surrender of their soul to God through Mary. This simple gesture becomes an expression of faith and a form of spiritual perseverance that strengthens the believer for daily struggles. Many testimonies of graces achieved reinforce the impact of this practice, which goes far beyond a simple nighttime habit. In situations of distress and financial difficulties, in family problems, and in moments of great insecurity, devotees report that the 3 Hail Marys help them find a solution and immediate relief. These graces are signs of the Virgin Mary's attentive care for those who place themselves under her protection. The practice also helps devotees develop a greater awareness of their own spiritual life. Praying the 3 Hail Marys before bed is a way of doing a brief examination of conscience, recognizing failures and thanking God for the day's blessings. This daily habit of introspection and prayer prepares the heart to rest in peace, knowing that Mary intercedes for us. Thus, the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys is not just a devotional tradition, but an effective way of living a life in constant union with God. She reminds us of the importance of entrusting our needs to the Mother of God and turning to her in all circumstances. Mary is, after all, the greatest intercessor with Christ, and her presence in our lives always leads us back to her Son. In times of crisis or temptation, praying the 3 Hail Marys becomes a refuge. Many Catholics share that, in times of great temptation, the Hail Mary prayer, and, in particular, the recitation of the 3 Hail Marys, was an anchor that kept them from sin. Mary, with her purity, acts as an example and support for those who seek to live in holiness. The simplicity of this prayer is an invitation to everyone, including those who have little prayer practice. Even those who have strayed from the faith can find in the 3 Hail Marys a way to return to spiritual practice. This gesture of humility, when praying before going to sleep, opens the soul to the actions of God, who never abandons those who seek refuge in His most holy Mother. Over the centuries, religious communities have also adopted this devotion as part of their nightly prayers. Congregations and monasteries in various parts of the world include the practice of the 3 Hail Marys in their daily prayers, especially as a request for purity and protection. This act strengthens the spirituality of each religious, uniting them to Mary in intercession for the world. In devout families, the prayer of the 3 Hail Marys is also a spiritual inheritance passed down from generation to generation. Many parents encourage their children to pray from a young age, helping them to create a trusting relationship with Mary. This family tradition builds a spiritual foundation that can sustain each family member throughout their lives, especially in times of trial. Devotion, in its essence, is also an invitation to imitate Mary's virtues. Each Hail Mary is a reminder of the humility, obedience, and purity of the Mother of God, By praying them, the Christian is encouraged to reflect on how he can live these virtues in his own daily life, strengthening his commitment to the Christian life. Many priests and spiritual directors recommend the devotion of the 3 Hail Marys as a complement to the sacrament of confession. By praying them, the believer commits to fighting against sin and seeking God's grace to overcome his weaknesses. This prayer exercise becomes constant spiritual support, helping the Christian to progress in his life of virtue. Furthermore, the practice of the 3 Hail Marys is a way of reminding the faithful that they are not alone on their spiritual journey. The Virgin Mary is a present mother, ready to intercede and offer her protection. This security brings comfort to the Christian, who knows that, when calling on Mary, he is receiving help from someone who understands his needs and difficulties. Another important aspect of this devotion is its ability to unite Catholics around the world in prayer. Even without knowing it, millions of people, in different places and contexts, pray the 3 Hail Marys every night. This spiritual unity strengthens the Church because, when uniting in prayer, the faithful become one body, guided by the same love for Mary and faith in her intercession. In moments of suffering, praying the 3 Hail Marys is a special consolation. Many believers share that, when praying them, they felt a relief and peace that they could not get from other forms of prayer. This consolation comes from the certainty that Mary, as a loving mother, never abandons her children and always intercedes with tenderness and attention towards each one. The tradition of devotion was solidified over the centuries with the support of venerable figures in the Church. Among the religious people who propagated the practice, many emphasized its simplicity and effectiveness, highlighting that this prayer is an open door to God's graces. For these promoters, the 3 Hail Marys are a bridge between human frailty and the power of Mary's intercession. Our Lady, in turn, in several appearances, reinforced the importance of constant prayer and trust in her intercession. Although he does not specifically mention the 3 Hail Marys, his request in Fatima for the faithful to pray always demonstrates the strength of Marian prayer as a means of obtaining graces and approaching God. The devotion of the 3 Hail Marys also helps to strengthen faith in Mary's power of intercession. For Catholics, knowing that they have such a caring and attentive mother is a reason for great confidence and hope. Mary, through her love and compassion, becomes an indispensable companion on the spiritual journey of each believer. Many saints and mystics throughout history have referred to praying the 3 Hail Marys as a means of protection against dangers to the soul and body. This testimony reflects the trust that the Church has always placed in the intercession of Mary, who constantly intercedes with Christ so that his children are protected and supported. The prayer of the 3 Hail Marys is, therefore, a reminder that, even in difficulties, we always have someone to turn to. By invoking the Mother of God, the Christian reaffirms his commitment to faith and his trust in the promises of Christ, knowing that Mary is the safe path that leads him to God. For those who seek a life of holiness, the devotion of the 3 Hail Marys is a practice that facilitates the journey. It strengthens the desire to live according to God's will and maintains constant memory of Mary's purity and grace. This continuous and faithful practice becomes an exercise in fidelity and love for God. The practice also reminds us of Mary's role as our intercessor with Christ. By honoring her, we do not move our devotion away from Jesus, but on the contrary, we draw even closer to him. Mary always leads us to her Son, and by praying the 3 Hail Marys, we ask for the grace to be ever closer to Jesus. Over the centuries, this devotion has taken root as a Catholic tradition that expresses the simplicity of faith and the power of Marian intercession. Even over the years, it continues to be a beloved practice for many believers, demonstrating that love and trust in Mary remain as strong as they have always been. Praying the 3 Hail Marys before going to sleep represents a total surrender of the day and a preparation for rest. For the faithful, this prayer is like a spiritual hug from Mary, who welcomes and protects us to face a new day, knowing that we have her help. In short, this devotion invites us to trust, to persevere, and to always seek the protection of Our Lady. With each Hail Mary, we give a little of ourselves and receive in return the assurance that the Virgin Mary cares for us and guides us. By praying the 3 Hail Marys, we recognize that, although we fail, we count on divine grace. Our Lady, in her infinite kindness, accepts our request with the love of a mother who intercedes for her children. This trust strengthens us, allowing us to walk in faith, This practice of praying before going to sleep is also a symbol of the inner peace that devotion brings. When we close our eyes, we know that we are in good hands, protected by the Mother who never abandons us and always helps us with her maternal love. The three Hail Marys, therefore, symbolize not only devotion, but hope in the Virgin's intercession. Each prayer is an act of faith that brings us closer to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which constantly intercedes for all her children. May devotion to the three Hail Marys continue to illuminate the lives of Christians, inspiring them to a life of purity, faith, and trust in Our Lady. May at the end of each day when praying this prayer, the faithful find in Mary an inexhaustible source of peace and love. Ultimately, the devotion of the three Hail Marys is a practice that unites us with Mary and God. May all who practice it feel the protection of Our Lady, who guides and strengthens them on the journey to eternal life, and that, through the intercession of the Virgin, they reach the grace of a holy life sustained by faith.